Alright, my name is Wallace. I'm a vampire. I just want to continue off where we're kind of left off. Talking about, suffering and being sad, but I do it because I keep that vampirism in check. I know it sounds dumb. It sounds like an excuse. Like if I was just some man, like talking and listening to myself, be like, you're so full of shit. Like, how you're choosing to live a loser lifestyle and you're sad and depressed and you're lying to yourself and you're delusional and you're not being honest. Like you're doing all of this just to suppress your vampirism. I find that really freaking hard to believe. Could it be you're just like being like I don't believe that and this is me talking to myself, like if I was another man, like I was like, I don't believe you're being an asshole. Like you are inherently being an asshole, but I don't think you're doing it for that reason. I think you're just a coward. That's what I would say. It's like you're just cowardly. But the truth is, I do it to keep my vampirism in check. And I know like my father, my grandfather, any man in my family would say you are so full of shit. But at the same time, they've known me long enough. They know what I struggle with vampirism. My grandfather probably knows probably the best because he spent the most time with me. I don't think he would see any fault with what I'm doing because he would understand if I gave a perfectly clear reason. I said I live the life I live strictly because it helps me with my vampirism. You know, you can't really argue with that. It's the truth. Like I don't really know another way to help myself stay the way I am and kind of listening and not overly dominant. Listening and taking care of my own business and being real. If I'm doing it because I have to, then that's a good answer. I feel like that's an acceptable answer. And there's a lot of people who don't know, but like there are people who I suppose who just suspect I live the way I do because I'm trying to keep my vampirism in check. Um, and I'll be honest with you, you know, I sound dumb saying magic. I always sound silly and dumb saying, "Oh well, it's magic, 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 magic." But it's friggin' magic, man. If I keep, uh, if I want to keep myself in check, make sure that I'm not, you know, if that part of me's not just running, running wild, so to speak. And then I gotta keep myself, in this kind of like suffering mindset. It's not. I mean, obviously, I've learned like this is just what I've learned as far as how to manage my life. Uh, when it comes to this stuff, I don't feel. I know there are plenty of people who are like, dude, just be a freaking vampire. I trust that vampire side of you to just do what's right. Seeing you do right things. Just I like seeing the show. I like seeing magic. I like seeing this stuff. That's pretty freaking weird. Supernatural stuff going on. I can feel it. There's like weird stuff, and I'm into this. And like it just makes me like you more. It's amazing. There's people who are like that. But here's the thing. I take responsibility. You know, I take responsibility for who and what I am, and if I gotta live in this kind of conflict with myself and have this kind of, I'll just say I have a shitty lifestyle. I do. I don't know why anyone would want to live like how I live. No, I don't think anybody should. I wouldn't want this for anybody. I wouldn't want people to be negative and suffering. You wouldn't want anyone to be that way. But I do it because I'm a vampire. I do it because even though, there are people say, oh, it's one of those things where I feel like I know best because people don't know. Or people, I have no one to talk to. I don't talk to other vampires. I used to live where at certain points I'd just be delusional and say, well, fuck it. You know, I'm gonna be in a positive mindset and just, oh, I'm not responsible for magical shit happening around me and people being affected by my vampires. I'm kind of just doing its thing. Oh, I'm not responsible for that. Oh, I'm delusional. I'm not even a vampire. Oh no, vampires aren't real. Nah, it's irresponsible. I'm sure I could, do that. Nah, who's gonna be like, well, here comes the magic police. No, you know. But the reality is that I don't think it's right. And if I have to, I see this is the part of me that's trying to change, and there's a lot of people trying to change me just to be that part of me, that positive mindset. Just let the magic run wild. Just let it be. Just let nature run its course. You know, there's so many people who want me to do that and be positive, happy, Wally, hyperactive. Singing. You know, doing all this stuff. And I'll let it out sometimes. I'm not saying that I don't at times, but I struggle with that. I struggle with it from a moral standpoint. Because here's my argument. Like I feel like I'm doing really good. Like even when people are punishing me, I just kind of like, it is what it is. When people are, when I have to just kind of turn the other cheek, and I know I deserve so much better than how I'm being treated by certain people. I'm just like, part of me is like, well, that's just another opportunity for me to grow up, to get stronger. I'm like, well, there's no harm in that, me getting stronger or trying to grow up more. But I know it's preventing me from, you know, I used the expression last video. I said bitching out. Bitching out has its effects on me. It makes me feel all kinds of bad ways. When there's a situation I know I can get out of unscathed, and I just take the hit, so to speak, not an actual physical hit, but like hit to my emotions, my manhood. I know it hurts me. I know it prevents me from establishing relationships with women. I know it does. It's not an excuse. It's not bullshit either. I know it's the truth. And I come up with some excuse to say, well, it is what it is. Because I know at the end of the day, I've got my reasons. I'm a vampire. You know, and there are a lot of people who want me to take charge. Like let's let the vampire Wally out. I've seen vampire Wally several times. I've seen you in different vampire modes, and like in your positive hyper mode, and your brain's totally different, and you're just like this like really I can't believe what you're doing. It's really cool and amazing. I know I sound like a total dweeb saying that, but it is, it's true. Like, let's see that. Screw the other guys. Screw them. Screw conventions. Screw everything. I want to see this. This is amazing. And I'm like, hold on, you guys. Let let's be reasonable here. Let's not screw over everybody else. And then sometimes it's like there's other guys who are like, man, just do it. Just screw me over. I don't care if you can beat me fair and square. If you can, you know, if you deserve it, you deserve it. And I'm like, well, that's not how life works. They're like, well, no, actually, that's how it works. I'm like, well, it's not how it works as a vampire. And they say, well, I don't know how it works as a vampire, but I know how life works, and you're in life. And I say, well, and then I come up with that excuse. I say, you don't know what it's like. And, and at that point, it's a bullshit moment. I realized for me, I'm like, all I have is bullshit excuses at that point. But guess I'm just stubborn. I'm like, I think it just comes down to being stubborn. I do respect myself as a man, and because I make that sacrifice. I do. It's a sacrifice when you turn the other cheek. I say, well, that showing restraint. Showing restraint is a part of manhood. I'm like, I want to work on that. Get better at that. I don't need to be Mr. CEO with the like that video series I was talking about, all those sister wives and the family. I sacrifice. I hate to say it, but I sacrifice all that, even the dream of that. I'm like, not gonna do it. Nope. So I wouldn't feel good about it. I wouldn't feel good about any of it. I wouldn't feel like it was me. I feel like it would be the vampire side of me. And if I achieve things, there's part of me that don't make sense. But it's like, you ever like take responsibility, or if you take credit for stuff you don't feel responsible for, you get that feeling. It's that feeling. It's like, well, that was the vampire side of me. And I know I want to say I dissociate from that, but it's like it's a hollow feeling when like I know that I'm like past a threshold of where I'm just like full on just using the vampire side of me to get things accomplished, and it's just like, well, I don't take credit for it. I can't. My brain doesn't. I don't know if that's a symptom of some sort or a psychological disorder, or if that's just normal for you know part of the vampire side of me. It's like I did not. In a lot of ways, it's like pressing the easy button. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. I'd rather people like me and be a part of my life. And yeah, I'm kind of grumpy and suffering, and but that's there's a lot of men like that. There's a lot of strong. I've seen strong men who are like that, and they still, they're loved and respected, and they're doing their thing. I could be like that. I choose not to use the stronger vampiric parts of me. Um, I want to say because I don't feel like it's fair. You know, it isn't fair. It isn't fair to other men. Um, But that argument, life is life, survival of the fittest. But it's like, I don't think they said that saying knowing like supernatural stuff, but I know it still applies. I know it's just life. I don't feel good about it. I'm working on it though. I'm trying to figure out some kind of middle ground or something like that, or you know, maybe find some people who I love, some women who I love who understand and can love me for this side of me and not the other side of me. Not when I'm like, doing all this vampire stuff. But I know that is definitely I want to say non-negotiable for some people. They're like, nah, man, we want the vampire. I only love you because of the vampire side of you. I love you for you, but really, it's the vampire. That's hard for me. It's hard for me to accept that because I don't feel like the vampire side of me is me. It is me, but it's like it's not. Uh, and it's kind of the reason why I really don't. It's like I know there's some women out there who are kind of the expression they only care about you because how you look. I know that's a thing. You know, I'm fine with that. And I'm like, I'd rather people just like me for how I look than just like me because I'm a vampire. But I want someone to love me. I don't know why I'm so difficult. I know I'm being difficult. I know I can make it a lot easier. Just listen to the person. And given the circumstances of my situation, just for me to be less to just accept, that that their feelings are their feelings, and they may not have control over their feelings to that amount, or that they may not have the ability to control their feelings in that way, to specify like, oh, I like Wally, I like these things about him. It's not just because he's a, you know, they're just feelings, you know. I need to accept that. I know. I get kind of, I get defensive over that. And that's a problem I have. It's a flaw. Um, I definitely get defensive when people are showing me too much admiration. I feel like it's just because just because of the vampire side. They admire the vampire when they see it, and I'm like, hey guys, fuck the vampire. Excuse my language, but you know, it's like having one positive quality about you that overshadows everything else. I'm just like, fuck. I don't know why I fight it. It don't even make sense, dude. Just accept it. That's what I should do. I'm trying to. Even though my body says it ain't right. It's like it's not, like I said earlier, that it feels different than who I am. Just accept it. And in this way, I'm gonna use some language that makes me feel kind of weird. But am I just a host? Am I just like, is there like a parasite inside of me? I'm just a host, and people like just this thing that's inside of me. And that's probably true. Like I've seen movies of like um, different like superhero movies or whatever, where the main positive thing about the hero in the movie is that they have this thing inside of them that's like giving them special abilities or whatever, and you fall in love with the character, but what really makes them interesting and lovable is that thing inside of them. So do I feel like I'm a parasite? I'm a host? Well, I don't particularly like that saying or whatever, but maybe the truth. You know, I don't like to admit that at all. I don't think anyone wants to say they got a parasite inside of them. It just don't sound right. But I'll be honest, it kind of pisses me off. But that's life, you know. I think part of me is just kind of a baby and that, or childish or whatever. Just saying, why can't you just love me for me? I know. I'm just dumb. It's not how life works. And I know the way people look at me, people who know me know that have seen the vampire side of me. Uh, it is me to them. You know, it's just a different part of me. Yeah, can't change how people look at me or think about me or whatever. And I gotta accept that. You know, I can't have things the way I want them to be. In this, especially in this instance. Yeah, I've got to accept that. Not be ashamed of it. Anywho, I'm gonna end the video there. Thanks y'all for watching and have a good night.